Okay, as I was getting ready for this episode and I was thinking of my next solo episode topic, I just got this feeling just like laid on my heart that I needed to just rewind for a minute. Let's revisit how Shift Happens even came about because I actually get this question all the time. They're like, where did you come up with the name? How did you come up with this podcast idea? How did you get where you are right now? And I think it's so interesting that when we look at somebody and their stats or their numbers and we're like, whoa, must be nice, or how the heck could they do that? We dismiss all of the hard work that it takes to get there. And I'll give you a personal example of this. And just to call out my own bullshit, is I was recently accepted into the LTK creator program, okay? It's from my personal content. It's nothing to do with the podcast. However, it is so easy for me to look at other LTK creators and be like, oh my God, they've got their shit together. Like they know how to post on this platform and I don't. And they've got their whole beige aesthetic and I'm sitting here bold, loud, and messy. And I don't mean bold as in colors wise. I mean bold in my ideas and my ability to just like make you think about things that maybe you didn't think about before. But guess what? I value that and I know others do too. So I had to take a step back and be like, Kayla, you were accepted into this program for a reason, right? And guess what? I'm not them. I am not the beige mom with all the aesthetics inside and perfectly matching furniture and a hutch that's decorated to the T, like whatever. Okay. That's not me. We're loud. We're messy. I'm okay with the mess too. Like, this is a lived in house. This is not some perfectly staged magazine photo. All of that to say, I've definitely had my fair share of moments of looking at others and being like, they're so much further than I am right now. Like, how? But that is dismissing all of the hard work that it took for them to get there because you're just being like, how could they possibly, or how are they? Well, guess what? It was a lot of hard work. And I realize that so much now that my own thoughts are making me think that way. But that realization didn't really come until others started asking me. I started getting the messages. I started getting that messaging from people around me, people I interview, and they will be like, how? Where? Why? What are the ins and outs of Shift Happens, right? So I take everybody back to my year of failing at podcasting. And yes, I say failing. However, I know now I needed that year to learn all of these lessons that I would have never, ever gained if I didn't go through it. My first podcast ever was an extension of all of my motherhood content where I was Steal the Joy Back, SJB first, and then we were Your Motherhood, Your Rules, and all of these different things, right? So my first podcast was called Joy Granted because I wanted to help moms find the joy in the everyday. My problem and why it didn't take off in the way that I imagined it would is because so much of it was scripted because I was afraid to use my own voice. I was afraid to cuss and be like, oh my God, what are they going to think of me when they know how I actually speak, how I actually talk? I have to be so clean in this space because others are going to judge me if I'm not. And that's where I got it all wrong because it's when I started speaking my truth and started speaking how I actually talk is when I found my people. But the second reason why Joy Granted never really took off is because I was teaching something that I myself was not living. I was sitting here miserable, not knowing how to actually find the joy in my days. Yet I'm sitting here telling other moms how to do it. And yes, I did have concrete ideas and great tools, but I was not using them myself. I remember one day, late August of last year, 2024, I actually spoke about this experience in the first ever episode of Shift Happens. It was like my recent breaking point and what I did about it. And it was all of this anger that I had had for so long about different situations throughout my life that I had never dealt with. And it came out on my toddler one summer day when I was overstimulated from having all 5 kids all day during the summer. And I remember sitting down. First, I said, okay, I need a therapist. Like, I need to go back to therapy like yesterday. I called immediately, made the appointment, etc. The rest of that story is in the first episode if you want to go back. and listened to me when I first started getting into Shift Happens. But there came a point where I said, I am stuck in some shit. Like, I'm in a shitty situation. My mindset was shit. My attitude was shit. My parenting was not that great. Like, it just was a very stressful season for sure. And I thought to myself, if I don't shift something, I'm going to be stuck in this shit. And that's kind of where Shift Happens came from. There are a bunch of reasons why I chose the word shift happens, but the F in shift is a different color to symbolize that it is a play on words of shit happens, right? But more importantly, if you do not shift and you take that F away, it becomes shit happens. And that happens to everyone. Shit happens to every single person, which is where my tagline of "we all have a story, what are you going to do about it" came from. Once you put that F there and you start to do the work, that's when the shit becomes shift. That's when you finally start working through it and it starts to become something different, because we can absolutely stay in the shit, right? Like, that's the easiest thing to do, is to just stay where you are, suck it up, buttercup, don't do anything. We're stuck like this. We're stuck in the shit for as long as we decide to be, really, because it is a choice. We all have choices about it. But once we decide we are going to find our F, that's when it all shifts. And this is also where I had done a Find Your F workshop, which I quickly learned I did not want to do every single Friday, and more so work on that becoming like a keynote speaking talk, or I don't know. I just wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it. But the entire idea of that is that I cannot give you your F. Nobody can. And that's the truth here, is that we sit here in the shit for so long waiting for somebody else to give us our F, to figure out what the F we need to do to change, that we stay in the shit. I cannot give you your F. Your mom can't give you your F. Your family can't give you your F. Your spouse can't give you your F. You have to look inward and figure out what the F your F is. So let me give you an example. My F was 100% forgiveness. 100%. But maybe for you, it's fitness. Maybe you feel so uncomfortable in your body that the way to get from the shit to the shift is fitness. You need to get back on track with going to the gym and eating right and blah, 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 right? Or maybe it's family. Maybe you have a relationship within your family that needs to be fixed. Or maybe you just have these desires for your family that you need to work on, or family rhythms. There are so many different ways. So even if somebody gave you the overarching F, like family, faith, fitness, forgiveness, whatever it might be, it's still on you to interpret it and what you need. I could say faith, and that's going to mean two completely different things to two different people. Sally over here might take faith meaning her relationship with God. And Susie over here might take faith as meaning believing in something that you can't see. So having faith in herself, or with finally going after what she wants to do in life. So even if I gave both Sally and Susie faith, they're going to interpret it differently depending on their situations, their needs, and how and why they are stuck in the shit. And then they're going to tailor that F to them. That is why I get so passionate about this type of work and mindset and self-improvement, is because you can buy all the books. You can listen to all the podcast episodes. You can journal it out until you need a whole pack of new pens. But nothing changes until you actually do the work. And sometimes, this might rub a few the wrong way, but sometimes we're doing the work for the wrong reasons, or for the look of it. Recently, I thought about starting 75 Hard. And when I looked at it, I just saw how unattainable it was for me. But at first, I just wanted that recognition of like, damn, she did it. And I could like picture it at the end of like, oh my God, I did this. I freaking did it. But if that's what I'm doing it for, that's completely wrong. And I realized quickly that I wanted to do my own version of 75 Hard. That's more about self-trust and keeping promises to myself over a program that was built for somebody else, from somebody else's life, from somebody else's rules, and somebody else's situations, and somebody else's story. That's not mine. So I'm not doing 75 hard. I'm not doing 75 soft. Mine is becoming Kayla, keeping promises to myself, building trust with myself, keeping the word to myself of when I say I'm going to do something, I follow through with it. An example of this I just posted about on my personal Instagram a couple days ago is learning Spanish. My husband is Mexican. For the longest time, I said, I want to learn Spanish. I want to learn Spanish. But it wasn't until I went to Mexico years into our relationship to meet our other side of the family. And that's when I was like, this is more than just learning Spanish. This is communicating with my family. This is opening up my kids' world to be bilingual, to have language skills, to have culture, to fully bring both cultures into our household. It is so much more than just learning Spanish. For those years that I said I wanted to, I didn't really want to. I just wanted to be able to communicate maybe, or said I wanted to, but I didn't really have that internal desire. And it wasn't until I was ready to do it that I finally started learning Spanish. So I love this visual, and it's something I shared recently, even in a guest interview with Yvette Salva. That was last week. You can check it out. I literally said this, okay? A keyboard. Here we have a keyboard, right? On this keyboard, let's see if I can do this. Hold on. On this keyboard, there is a shift button. And of course, there's an F, right? All the letters are on there, but there's a shift and an F. My idea and my visual with this is that it exists. Those are on the keyboard no matter what, right? I had to buy this keyboard with my computer, which is going to symbolize a tool. I bought a tool. This could be a self-help book. This could be a self-improvement podcast. This could be a free tool. This could be a purchase tool, whatever this symbolizes for you and what you have tried thus far. Okay? Does it do anything to the F if I don't push the shift? No, it's just an F. But when I decide to push that shift button and then the F, it does something to it, right? So all of that to say is, if until you decide to push that shift yourself, nobody can do it for you, right? We're back to that nobody can do this for you idea. Until you do it yourself and you push that shift and the F at the same time, that is when you create shift. That is when a change happens. Literally and figuratively in this situation with the example that I'm using. But let's say my mom is here and she pushes it for me. Does it do anything for me? No, it does it for her. Or if I only ever listen to everybody else's situations and stories, and I can listen all I want and I can absorb their lessons and their perspectives, but until I change mine, I'm still stuck in that shit. I have not shifted myself yet. I've heard other people shift. I've heard their tools, their perspectives, what's worked for them, their mindset hacks. You have to find what works for you, which brings me back to finding your F. We all have an F that we have to find, but it's up to you. And the biggest thing that I ever see, this is the biggest thing with the hundreds of women I have talked to this point, throughout my old coaching program, throughout my new coaching program, throughout everything, okay? You cannot find that F until you give an F about yourself. I said what I said. You cannot find your F until you give one about you. And as a mom, that was so very hard for me. That is why I experienced what I did last summer. That is why I exploded on my then 3-year-old, because I had not cared about myself, and I was so far back on the back burner, I didn't even remember I was on the damn stove at this point, okay? I know I'm not the only one for that too, which is why I share my experiences. I'm a human behind this microphone. I'm messy. Like I said, I'm loud. This house is loud all the time. It's amazing I could get silence just to record this podcast episode. When you start to care about yourself, which usually happens after you see what happens if you don't start caring about yourself, you will be able to pick your F and you will be able to shift. You will be like, wow, I really need some focus. I'm going to hone in on some skills and focus on this project that I've been meaning to do or I've been dreaming of doing. Maybe your F is fun. You want some more fun integrated into your family or your parenting or your whatever, your relationship. Maybe it's the faith, like I said. Maybe that is a spiritual relationship, or maybe it is believing in something that you cannot see, or having faith in yourself. Maybe like me, it's forgiveness. You have some people to forgive because the weight of not forgiving them is too heavy. and you're just carrying somebody else's burden, you can set that down. Whatever it is, it all starts when you start to give an F about yourself. I know what it's like to not give one about yourself. I truly do. That is where Shift Happens came from. That is why I decided to go all in on this women's podcast. This is why I'm so passionate about Shift Happens and the messaging surrounding it and the finding your F idea and the shift method, self-awareness, healing old patterns, intention over impulse, facing the hard shit, and taking action. These things came from real life, real lived experiences. And while they did come from mine, the shift method and find your F, that's universal. That can be applied to anyone. And again, I cannot give it to you ever. You have to find it for yourself. And then you have to decide to push that shift with the F and finally do something with it all. So I guess my message with all of this is just to stop hoarding all the self-help stuff and just finally go for it. Do something with everything that you have. If you've just been a sponge this whole time, soaking in everything that you've been hearing or listening to or reading, my challenge to you is to finally do something with it. Because once you do, you won't even believe that there was a time where you were stuck in so much shit because you finally shifted. My messages are literally always open. This is probably the most unscripted podcast episode I've ever done because usually I at least put bullet points on a piece of paper of like what I want to talk about or what I want to get to. And this one, I just freely went for it. I didn't even plan on sitting down right now, to be honest, but I had some time and it was on my heart and I was like, I have to record this. So I have no grand ending thing like I usually do. But as usual, take what you need, leave the rest. I'm Kayla, and I'll see you next time on Shift Happens.